So it was in the middle of the mountains. So you had to go up into Kentucky and come back down to get back into Tennessee to go. And as we're pulling in, there's a white building, and spray painted on the side of the building was "Long Live the KKK."
What's going on, wrestling fans? It is I, Steve, and welcome to 10 Count. On today's edition, I should have put on maybe my skirt, but I got the Headbangers with me, Mosh and Thrasher. How are you both doing today?
Doing
tremendous.
Except like the box over your shoulder says, there's only just one problem. I see all of this merchandise behind you, but I don't see any of this stuff.
Yeah. Don't make me go into my giant box of stuff over there and pull up my Headbangers action figures, the Jax action figures, all right?
I don't think I would go around, telling everybody you had a giant box.
Well, well, listen, folks. Folks. The beard might give away. I said it.
You said giant box. We're running with you have a giant box.
I have a giant box filled with you guys in my giant box, okay? Is that better?
Wow.
Is that better for you?
No, it just got weird.
Oh, well, good night, everybody. It is a pleasure talking to both of you, though. It sounds like a great Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. Either way, woo, starting off hot here. I interviewed Marginetti this week, and I thought that was a little crazy. This is going to be a little crazy as well. But let's talk about the Headbangers. Who came up with this concept? Who came up with the Headbangers gimmick?
Jim Cornette. When we were wrestling in Arkansas for Ozark Mountain Wrestling, and we got a message to call Cornette. He was interested in bringing us in. But back then we were wrestling as the Spiders. And Cornette basically called us and he said, listen, I'd like to bring you boys in. He goes, but I hate the masks. I hate the spiders. He was actually, you're going to laugh at this. He told us he was in New York at a Glenn Danzig concert. And he said these guys there was like a big mosh pit. They were beating the shit out of each other. They were spitting on each other. They were pierced. They had piercings, tattoos. He said they were wearing dresses and skirts. And he goes, it was just chaos. He goes, but the way their attitudes were and the way your guys kind of are, you're from that area. He goes, I think you could make this work. He goes, not that I'm expecting to get piercings or tattoos or wear dresses or skirts or anything like that. He goes, it's just kind of an idea. So it was his original idea. And when we showed up our first day at Smoky Mountain, he handed me a Slayer shirt. He handed Glenn a Metallica shirt. And we had shorts and sneakers and boots on. Like, we really had no idea what the gimmick was going to be. And as it went on, we just kind of evolved it into what it is now. So it was originally his idea. I mean, we even went out there. We didn't even know our names. He goes, you're going to be Headbangers. You're probably going to be Mosh. You're going to be like Slasher or something. And Glenn changed that to Thrasher because of Slash. But it was literally on the fly, on TV, doing an interview where we came up with names.
Yep.
Wow. And so how comfortable were when someone's handing you a skirt, to wear in 1998, 99, because this is in such a different time than we are in now. What was the comfort level?
It didn't really happen like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we came up with the skirt. So we were still in Smoky Mountain. The problem we were having, just not with the crowd or anybody in the locker room, it was just us saying
identity-wise.
So we looked like PG-13, except we were twice as big. PG-13, T-shirts, shorts, sneakers. So we were walking around a thrift store, and I, as a kind of a joke, wandered over to the women's aisle and grabbed the
as he does from time to time.
Of course.
It happens. I grabbed the skirt, put it on, and I walked out into the middle of the aisle, and he turns the corner. He's like, no, absolutely not. And I went, listen, I said, this is kind of the thing. It's going to be different. And, we buy a skirt, we try it out. And if it doesn't work, we don't do it anymore. And he was like, nope, not doing it. So after about 35 seconds, I convinced him to get the skirt. We put them on. And the funniest part about it is we put them on in the locker room, and we were very hesitant to put them on in front of all the boys. You got Tracy Smothers, you got Dirty
Brad
White,
Armstrong.
Yeah, you have Brad.
Buddy Landell.
Robert are in there. And we're putting these skirts on, and they're all looking at us, and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Glenn's like, see, told you. And I'm like, we're just trying something different. Like, just see what happens. And Cornette said the same thing. He kind of looked at us, and he went, okay, like, let's see. We went out. We got so much heat from, I mean, here we are, we're right outside Knoxville. And, you know, we got a bunch of rednecks and they're yelling at us. They're calling us sissies. They're calling us fat. I mean, they're calling us everything you could possibly think of. We got in the back. Cornette looks at us. He goes, "Where'd you buy those?" We said, "Thrift store." He handed us each $20. He goes, "Go buy more. You now wear skirts."
Wow. Because it all worked out for you. Even wearing like bras and wearing, you know, there's padding in there as well. Again, what is the level of comfort for you, and what's the level of, you're getting a lot of heat, but is that, you know, too much heat sometimes when you're leaving the arena?
The bras came way later.
Oh, in 2000. Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
and the bras still have heat with us.
Yeah, it's still something that we don't like to talk about or look at. But the skirts it was just, I mean, we were in the Bible Belt and we had to separate ourselves identity-wise from everyone else. You know, we saw Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses on the stage wearing a kilt and a skirt and stuff like that. And we were like, man, that's a great idea. And then I never really thought of ever doing it until Chaz was like, let's just try it. Let's just try it. And I'll tell you what, it's the most comfortable thing to wrestle in ever. So yeah, it's, you know, our whole gimmick cost us, you know, $10 at the thrift store.
Wow. Hey, you know, some gear costs a lot of money. You know,
yep.
A couple of bucks here and there gave you a lifetime of memories and money in your pocket. So,
but it's funny because
go ahead.
It's funny because when we actually started with WWE, we came in as the Headbangers. Everybody wants to think that we came in as, you know, the Nuns and stuff like that, but we came in, our tryout was with the Headbangers. We came in as the Headbangers because Smoky Mountain was closing. So Cornette was trying to get all his guys, you know, put into a spot and stuff like that. And that's when they were trying to turn Saturday morning wrestling into, you know, matches and have it more competitive. So they were looking for TV guys to be more competitive. So we were, you know, we did the tryout, you know, Vince and Shane and Stephanie, we all they knew us from going up there and doing jobs before. So they were just like, this is awesome. This is great. We were signed to a part-time deal.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny. I'm glad you clarified that because at least for historians, that we all believe that you came in as the Nuns, and then someone goes, it's not working, and then the Headbangers are created. So you kind of just fixed Wikipedia and you fixed everybody who thinks that's the narrative.
So the whole thing was supposed to be, you know, they were going to intertwine the Headbangers and the Nuns together and go, these guys are just so out of their minds crazy. They don't care what they wear. They just want to fight. So, you know, but, you know, unfortunately, the Nuns got squashed, you know, really quick because of, you know, religion rights or, you know, religious people and whatnot. So we never told that tale. But they are still undefeated.
They are undefeated.
Well, hey.
And I have a shirt that says it.
That's right.
Can we buy that somewhere?
You can buy that at ProWrestlingTees.com.
There you go. Yeah, you slip that in there. Of course, you have to get the website in there. That's amazing to know this. And coming in though, at the time, you know, Marilyn Manson's huge, and Korn and Limp Bizkit. So there's an audience that is hungry for people like them on TV, especially a wrestling program. And you gave them that opportunity. Have people come up to you over the years and said, like, I related to you. When I saw you, I saw myself.
All the time. We have so many people that have come up to us over the years and been like, just the way, because our whole thing was, because people will say, well, why do you wear skirts? Well, because we can. Why do you have piercings? Because we can. What's with the tattoos? Because we can. Is it hurting anyone? No, it's us just showing our individuality. It's us just being ourselves. And if you're not hurting anyone, who cares what you wear and what you're doing? Like, that's your own personal brand. That's you. It doesn't really matter. So over the years, we've legit had, you know, like, we've had gay guys come up to us. We've had lesbians come up to us. We had people with tattoos and piercings. Like, you made us feel better about ourselves in high school when we felt like we were an outsider doing something wrong. You made us feel better about ourselves, and we were able to accept ourselves even more. We actually had a girl come up to us one time in an appearance, and she said because of the way we were portraying ourselves and what we were doing, she was able to explain it to her dad watching us on TV, and then that made her and her dad closer, and her dad actually ended up accepting who she was even more because of us on TV. And again, there wasn't a message we were trying to get across. We were just being ourselves. We're two goofballs that just happened to be on TV to have a good time. That's all it was. But
It's a great story.
Yeah.
The fact that people related to you was such a positive thing. Your shirt at the time, "Real Men Wear Skirts," was such a iconic slogan because, again, you're thinking like in 1988, 1989, the world isn't that accepting, but yet there's a whole group of people who are accepting of this and love it so much. You know, you wore a skirt, but like Roddy Piper wore a kilt. Did you ever have conversations, or did that ever cross over? If it was like, hey, you're wearing skirts, I'm wearing a kilt. But for years, Roddy Piper, if you were a bad guy, would call, hey, you're wearing a skirt, Roddy.
It was so funny that we saw him at a show. It was the gathering of Juggalos. It was that big Juggalo gathering and stuff like that. He was there, and we were there, and we were in the back and stuff like that. He came over to us, and he was like, I love it. And that's all he said, walked away, gave us a big hug and stuff like that, and he goes, I love it. Like he didn't feel, because it was different. He wore, a kilt because it was part of his nationality and his background and stuff like that. We wear them because we just feel like it because we can. Kind of thing.
His kilt he takes off. Like we leave his skirt on. He takes his kilt off when he's wrestling. And the other funny part is so many people come up and they go, oh, so you wear kilts? I'm like, no, it's a skirt. They're like, no, it's a kilt. I'm like, you're really telling me what I wear? It's a skirt. I'm like, look at the back of the T-shirt where it says "Real Men Wear Skirts." It doesn't say "Real Men Wear Kilts." It's a skirt.
Of course. I remember one iconic moment with both of you. I'm watching MTV Road Rules, and you both are on this program showing these people who are trying to travel around the country and become real world people on the road, but they got involved with the WWE, and you two were involved in the situation. What is that like? Because MTV, again, at this time, the hottest programs, the hottest network going for a certain demographic. So how did you get involved?
It was so funny because somebody from the office came up to us and they said, hey, we want you guys to do this thing on MTV. We knew of the show, Road Rules and stuff like that, but we didn't know to the extent that we were going to be on the show. And then once everybody else found out about it, they all jumped on the bandwagon with us. So that's why we had so many other people when we were in the ring and stuff like that. They just told us that, you're going to introduce them to the square circle. So we just went with it, and everything that we did was on the fly for that.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were. And the greatest part was we were still part-time. We didn't even have full-time contracts yet, and they filmed that. No, it was in Calgary because it was hometown. So they filmed it in Calgary. So they flew us all the way up to Calgary the day of the pay-per-view just to film that to do all that stuff, which was a blast. And the other funny part is we got on the bus and those kids were like, oh, wrestling, this is going to be easy. We're like, dude, you have no idea. And we laid everything in as if they were regular workers, guys we were wrestling every night. We laid everything in. There was no pulled punches.
It was funny, too, because, we went up to the producers of the show and stuff like that. We were like, where's the line that we draw? How far do you want us to go? That's exactly what they told us. They said, treat them as you would anybody else. So we did.
Oh my, those poor people. I remember watching them like, oh, because I still am, but obviously at the time wrestling was the biggest thing it ever was. And then I'm like, oh my God, like here are the Headbangers on MTV. The two things I love so much are crossing over. And you said this was filmed in Calgary. So this is 1997. So you're talking about this was filmed on the pay-per-view in your house, Calgary Stampede?
Yes, that was it.
Wow, I'm surprised. They were like, oh, come on in while we have a pay-per-view prepping for.
Yeah, we did it today at a pay-per-view. Yeah.
Wow. And you said you weren't under contract?
We were under a part-time deal. So what they were doing was, as Glenn mentioned earlier, they brought guys in because they wanted to make the matches more competitive. So they signed a bunch of guys. It was like Al Snow, they had Hopper. They had TL Hopper. They had Freddie Joe Floyd or whatever. They came up with the Goon. That's when they had all these guys coming in. So they would build them. The idea was to build them up to this high on TV. So then it looked like they could win. So you remember the Saturday morning matches when you just see the guy getting the shit kicked out of him?
Oh yeah.
Which we did for years.
What we did when we started.
Yeah, so they wanted to try and make it look like the matches could be competitive. Like the Goon has a chance of beating Shawn Michaels. That's kind of what they were doing. So that they signed all those guys to part-time deals. So it was just TV deals. You got so much money for TV. That's what they originally signed us for, was to do that. And then out of all the part-time guys, we were the only ones that were signed full-time after that. So, yeah, when we did the Calgary thing, we were still part-time. WrestleMania 13, we won WrestleMania 13. We were still part-time guys. We weren't even under a full-time contract.
Wow. Because eventually you do win the tag team championships in your house, Ground Zero. And you did this. Obviously, you were full-time at that point because Calgary Stampede and In Your House, Ground Zero are about like 4 months apart. So you won the tag team titles in the WWF at the time. What's that mean to you? Because heading into, obviously, this company is a big deal.
What did it mean to us?
Yeah.
Everything.
I mean, people say to me, like, career-wise, like, what's the greatest? That pay-per-view and WrestleMania 13 are two of the greatest when it comes to it. I mean, you're at the top. You're at the pinnacle. I mean, everyone wants to be in WWF, and if you're a champion in WWF, you've made it. You've done it. I mean, it just was. I don't even know. I can't even really. It's hard to kind of put into words.
It's extremely hard to put into words. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's tough. But the great story behind that, again, is Cornette. We owe a lot to Cornette. Cornette came up with the gimmick, the idea. He's actually the one that presented us to Vince, so he got us, basically our part-time contract. And then the day of the pay-per-view in Louisville, he called us. He goes, "Boys, come with me." He takes us all the way downstairs into the parking garage, like a very, very dark back corner of the parking garage.
Oh, my God.
He's going to kill you.
And we're like, "Jimmy, whatever we did, like,
we're sorry."
And he pulled us down, and he goes, "I just want to tell you guys," because we were a last-second fill-in, because that's when Stone Cold hurt his neck. So him and Dude Love were tag champs, so they weren't able to be in the match. So he looked at us, and he goes, "You guys are winning the belts tonight." And we were like, cool. We're like this. And he goes, no. He goes, "I brought you down here so we could all jump around together like little boys like you want to do." So then we all started jumping around together and screaming.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
Because you got to think, like you said, like little boys, little girls' dreams have become champions, and here you are the tag team champions held by the Hart Foundation, held by so many great tag teams before, and now here you are, and you, like you said, you're a replacement for another team that's not supposed to be here. So your win being part of the situation of going, okay, let's give them the championships and see what happens next. That's got to be a great feeling in general, because Jim Cornette is someone who you either love or hate. And I love him because of all the contributions he's given to the wrestling world. And yet he's bringing you in. He's sharing this moment with you. He wants you to jump with him. He wants you to jump around and feel this moment. And again, how does that feel? Because Jim Cornette, he is someone that is respected in the wrestling business, and he's bringing you down to his corner to kill you.
It's funny with Cornette and everybody's opinion and stuff like that. If you don't want to know an honest answer, do not ask Jim Cornette the question. That's just how it is. Jimmy is so blatantly honest about his perception on what he's seeing and stuff like that. I mean, you can't. The guy is just, everything in this business. He's incredibly intelligent about. You can't say enough about him. Is he controversial? But keeps him relevant.
That's right. He's got the #1 podcast in the wrestling world. So
how about that?
Doing something right.
We're Cornette guys.
It's kind of like the old Howard Stern when he was like, "Listen, people don't like him, people like him, but either way, everyone's listening because they want to see what he has to say next." Same thing. Yep. And Jimmy's brutally honest. He's brutally honest, but he's super creative, and he's got such a mind for this business. It's
unbelievable.
We've learned so much from him. Smoky Mountain days, one of our first week coming in. We went back to do TV again, and he walked in with VHS tape, and he hands it to us. He goes, "Go home and watch this. Take what you see on this tape and incorporate it into you. I see a lot of you guys what's in this tape, but just take moves and get creative with it and make up your own stuff." It was all Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express. It was all of them. That's what it all was. And that's how we came up with a lot of the stuff that we do now, was through that tape. And then he gave us the chance in Smoky Mountain, to perfect a lot of that stuff.
Wow! Again, Jim Cornette, what a good guy. Now, are you still in contact with Jim Cornette at all?
Here and there.
Yeah.
Again,
And we'll see him at like different conventions or a tweet will go out there or something like that. I think he just celebrated his birthday not that long ago. Facebooked him and stuff like that and everything. We know his wife Stacy as well, really well because they were together back in the old days, I guess you want to call it. So yeah.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Because again, I can't say enough good things about the things he's done for the wrestling world. And again, we brought it up. You love him or you hate him. It's up to you. It's not up to me to tell you how to like him or hate him. But WrestleMania, you brought up WrestleMania 13 as well. Heading into WrestleMania, this is something I think, again, WrestleMania is like the Super Bowl of wrestling. There you are. You're involved. What's your day like? Are you doing media all week? Are you preparing? What is the situation heading into this event?
It was crazy because we had no idea what to expect. We had no idea. It was so funny because I still remember walking into the hotel, and it was just flooded with people. And we're just like, we're two kids from New Jersey that just didn't know.
They had a car because usually when you get you get into a town, you get your rental car and you go wherever you have to go. They had a car picking us up at the airport, and we're like, why is there a car? So then we pull up to the hotel and there's all this security, and we're like,
crazy.
What is going on? Like, we have no idea. We walk into the hotel lobby. You could not move. There were people just all over
everywhere.
And so the security's like moving the people away so we can get to the front desk. We get to the front desk. Now, mind you, we started in November of 16. So this is March of 17. So there's not that much time that's passed. All of a sudden, we start hearing a Headbanger chant. And we turn around, we're like, are they talking to us? Like, is there something else? Are they saying something? Like, we were totally, and then as we were going through the lobby, they just kept chanting our names and yelling our name. We were like, what is going on? At that moment, we were like, holy shit, you got to be kidding me. So we went upstairs to our rooms, and then we're like, we got to go downstairs and see if this is real. So then we go back downstairs, we go into the bar, and next thing you know, people are buying us shots, they're buying us drinks. It's all this. It turned into just a big party with all the fans. And then they had so many different events going on. They had the Slammies. So that was our first experience at the Slammies. And, Undertaker won like 8 awards. And every time he won an award, the lights would go out. We would pick up the dinner rolls and start throwing them across the room at everyone in the dark. And then we would just sit back down like it was no big deal. So we started this thing and then we did the fashion show where all the fans were there and we're interacting with the fans. And we realized quickly that interaction with them made us, I don't want to say bigger stars, but it made us connect with them even more. Like, we were able to, that's when we started hearing about the gimmick, what we were doing, what we were wearing, what it meant to them. And, we were able to make that connection with them a little bit better. But I mean, just that whole thing of being at WrestleMania and being in WrestleMania was just like, I still remember growing up and watching, WrestleMania 1, 2, and 3, going to the Garden State racetrack and watching on closed circuit TV, yelling at just a big giant screen, not even yelling at them, just yelling at a screen with all these other people around. So it was a very surreal, holy shit moment.
I'm so happy you said that about WrestleMania 1, 2, and 3 because you always hear stories about people going to watch it on closed circuit television, but you never find someone who they was there. I'm like, well, okay, well, who is there proof? I need someone to tell me what it was like because I imagine, like you said, you're inside of a theater or a movie theater or whatever, and you're just sitting there watching it. Are people bringing signs? Are people yelling? Give me more.
There were no signs. Signs weren't a big thing back then. But no, I mean, my friends and I went and we screamed and yelled as if I was live at the Spectrum yelling at them at ringside. That's just what we did. We cheered, we booed, we did all that. Some people sat there looking at us like we were morons, but I'm like, listen, this is a wrestling show. Like, this is what we're going to do. If you don't like it, you get out. This is how we're going to be.
We have proof, and it's true. You are a witness to these live events inside those closed circuit televisions. I'm so happy about that. And I do want to talk about something that's a little weird. So we're talking about for a second. Thrasher, when you're, injured, unfortunately, Beaver Cleavage appears into the organization. And maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. How did you feel about this? Because it's not like the Headbangers broke up really. Like, they didn't have a big, giant breakup in a singles match and a storyline. It just turned out, you're injured, and that kind of happens. And then, out of nowhere, Mosh becomes Beaver Cleavage. Whoa. What were both of your mindsets heading into this, going like, wait a minute, I thought we were doing great, and now this is happening to us?
Well, mine was I kind of understood it. I tore my ACL, my meniscus. So I went through and back in I think it was 99. That surgery was really, in depth, and so it's not like it is today. So it put me on the shelf for a good 9 months, 9 months to almost a year. So I mean, it was to the fact that when they approached Chaz with that, we talked about it, and it was just like, he still has to, go out and do what he does and stuff like that. So there was nothing. I didn't think anything like that was bad for us. It wasn't talked about like it was a breakup. It was, hey, he's going to do this, while you're out recovering, kind of thing. And then towards the end of it, we kind of, got different information. I was going to come back as Doink the Evil Clown.
Really?
Bruce Pritchard was going to be my manager. So I don't know if you guys remember back then, Bruce used to go out to the ring and pick up like different objects, during the hardcore matches, and he used to run backstage. So that was going to be my weapons when I came back as the Evil Clown Doink. And then Chaz was going to continue to do the Beaver Cleavage thing. So as it appeared, or as it got closer to actually doing it and stuff like that, the Beaver Cleavage thing, I guess, fell off and lost steam, or got the hate mail.
Yeah. So for me at first, I was kind of hesitant. I never really did singles. When Glenn trained me, I started in June of '93. November of '93, we had our first tag match. I had a couple of singles matches, but it was mostly, from that point forward, I was mainly a tag team. So I was a little hesitant, but at the same time, a little excited at the opportunity to, do my own thing and figure something out. And the Beaver Cleavage thing was, it was fun. It was funny. Those vignettes were hysterical. It was so much fun doing the vignettes. And then, my head's buried in boobs every night outside the ring during vignettes. So, who's complaining? The only complaint I had, and hindsight being 2020, looking back at it now, I didn't like the girl who was my mother. We just didn't click. Personalities didn't get along. And at that point, I was like, I kind of was getting like, okay, this is going to suck. But because she just wasn't, we just weren't a good fit. But I didn't look at it from the business side of it going, well, I don't have to like her. We just have to get along on TV. Like, I have to like her for 10 minutes. That's it. I can look at it that way. And then I didn't even look at it back then where, they were bringing all these females in, and whoever had a female valet kind of was getting pushed to the top. That's when Jeff had Deborah, and Lita was coming in. Like, all these women were coming in, and the guys were getting pushed. So they did we did the vignettes. I did the one match against Christian. Again, I have another undefeated gimmick. Beaver Cleavage has never lost.
Dude.
I'm 2 for 2 with those. But then that's when, Sable was doing her sexual harassment suits and all this other stuff was going on. So anything that was sexually edgy, and let's be honest, they were insinuating I was having sex with my mother. That's where the gimmick was going. Yeah. That's when they killed it off. And they're like, you're just going to be Chaz, this kid from New Jersey who's just happy to be here, and you come out with your girlfriend. And at that point I went, well, who's Chaz? I know who Mosh is. I know who Beaver Cleavage was, but who the fuck was Mosh? Or who was Chaz? I had no idea how to act and kind of what to do, because that was never it. I was a spider. Then I did 3 matches as Chaz in the ring in New Jersey before Glenn and I started tagging. So I really didn't know what to do with it. And then they started coming up with the stupid ideas of, I'm beating up my girlfriend, and this is going on, that's going on. Then it was all leading back for Glenn. But again, looking back, I should have just embraced her, took it, and then when Glenn came back, boom, now we have a girl with us who's in good shape, who we could have trained to get in the ring. We could have been out there with the Hardys and Lita, and we would have had that female presence with us. But it's not how it happened, so it is what it is.
So I never knew why Beaver Cleavage ended, because to me it was like, oh, okay, this is a fun little gimmick, and I like it's the Attitude Era, so we're trying very, very edgy things. So you're saying the reason it ended is because Sable's lawsuit against the WWE?
That was a part of it, yeah. So anything that had that sexual innuendo going on, they had to kind of kill off because, there was sexual harassment charges and rumors and stupid shit like that going around.
Wow. See, I'm really, again, this is like you're clearing out all these rumors because for years people just thought, oh, it wasn't doing well, so they ended Beaver Cleavage.
And people say to me all the time, like, was that a shoot on TV when you just walked off? I'm like, who walks off live TV like that? I wasn't in the pitch. I wasn't Stone Cold. I wasn't CM Punk. Like, I couldn't just walk off and leave. No. The gimmick was fun. I mean, it would have been, I think it could have gotten over. And then from there, could have evolved it into something else. Or like I said, if it was to bring Glenn back in, then we could have evolved it that way also. I never really looked at wrestling when we were there. Our idea was, okay, we're here. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We stay out of trouble. We do what we're asked. All right, I'm here for life. Never realizing the business side of it when they want you to be not controversial, but they want you to question and push and do different things like that. Like, I just wish I'd looked at the business side of what was going on, but I did.
Yeah.
Totally different thing.
Well, I definitely enjoy Beaver Cleavage. So, he said, boobs in your face. Who's complaining? Who's complaining? And then that's weird storyline where, Chaz, and you would wear like boxers to the ring.
Well, they said, like, what are you going to wear? Because when the next TV, I was like, I didn't have gear. I had Headbanger stuff. I had Beaver Cleavage stuff. I didn't have gear. I had my high-tech boots. I had,
Good old Zoom.
What you're wearing? I'm like, that's all I got. I don't know where this is. You guys can't tell me where it's going, what I'm doing. You told me I'm Chaz. I'm this just happy to be here from New Jersey, so I have happy face, smiley boxer shorts, and that's what I rolled with it. If I would have known where it was, it was going to last longer, I would have gotten gear made. But I think I would have gotten gear made with smiley faces on it because that's kind of what I was wearing, and I wore it under the skirt. I had smiley face T-shirts we wore out as Headbangers, so I was like, that's kind of where I was going with it.
I enjoyed it all. I just didn't. Even as a child, I thought, I was like, oh, he's beating his girlfriend storyline. I was like, even as a 13-year-old boy, I thought, I'm okay with him having sex with his mother, but I am not okay with him beating his girlfriend.
That's just weird, man.
There's a huge box over there, Oh my! But yes, you eventually reunited, and so was that. Eventually, you're back from your injury. You get back together. You get back in the saddle. So how does that feel? Because again, 9 months out injured, there's got to be something in the back of your brain going, "Am I going to be as good as I once was?" Because now maybe you're thinking, "Am I going to be hurt going in the ring?"
So yeah, I mean that knee injury. It was the first time I've actually ever, had a serious injury. I've broken my nose several times, my collarbones, my elbows, things like that. But anything like the surgery, it was in my head so bad and so much, and it just never got out. It took years, even after I left WWE and stuff like that. It took years for it to actually leave I want to say good 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
Before I could actually think about running normal or, not being afraid of doing something because this was going to happen and stuff like that. So, I mean, when we got back together, it was like, we never missed a beat. It was the same old. But when you come back from the ring and you have, the agents come up to you and go, hey, you're running different. You're taking little small steps and stuff like that. What are you doing? Stuff like that. It also adds to your psyche and stuff like that. And, it really hurt me more than just physically. It hurt me more mentally. It was funny because when I went back and I saw my surgeon and stuff like that, and I was telling him about, things that were going on and how I felt and stuff like that. Should I wear the big giant Steve Austin knee braces and will that help? Or I was looking for any kind of answer. And he goes, those knee braces, that's just for your head. So if you feel it's going to help you mentally, wear it. He goes, but your knee is surgically 100% fine. So it was more of a head thing and stuff like that, and it was bad. It was funny because years later, I moved down to Florida because that's where Chaz was living at the time and stuff like that. And we got back in the ring, I want to say in 2010, and I was 325 pounds. I got out of wrestling and I lost all desire for anything. He was living down here. I was still living up in New Jersey and Maryland. And it was not a good time for me. I was still, trying to search, like we were talking about before, find my way kind of, I guess, after wrestling and stuff like that. So then, I moved down to Florida and he was like, let's get back in the ring. And I was just, I got all this going on. He was like, just go to the gym. Just try it. So I went from one realm all the way to another where, I was down to 215 pounds. I lost over 100 pounds. I looked like I was sick. I had little tiny body and I had this big giant head. And somebody actually came up to me at a show. I'll never forget it, and asked me if I was okay. And I went, what do you mean? He was like, you don't look normal. You look sick. And then I took a picture with that person, and then I looked at that picture. I saw it later online, and I did. I looked like I was a cancer patient. So, I still have the battle, I guess, with eating and working out and stuff like that. But it's something that, I think stemmed from my knee surgery and stuff. It was bad. But years later, I had a second knee surgery on the other day, and we were back in the ring in 4 or 5 months. And it was like night and day between the two surgeries. Years apart, of course. Yeah. Technology got a lot better. So yeah, it was a battle. It's always a battle, that I go through with the weight and stuff like that. It's hard.
The technology for surgery got better, but he also went to a better surgeon because he went to my surgeon. So
yeah, Doctor. Yeah.
Well, shout out to your doctor then, because
Dr. Gelb.
But you brought up a really good point though. Like, people always say, "Oh, I was injured and I got back in the ring," but no one ever sees the scars that I can see your scar on your arm or your knee or your back, but I can't see the scars inside you. I cannot tell how you're feeling mentally about something that should be, "Oh, I got a surgery, my knee's better," but in reality, that affects your brain.
Well, it's weird too because you always want to go back in and you always want to pick up where you left off and stuff like that. You never want to say you digressed or went backwards or anything else like that. And then, you have people saying, hey, looks like you lost a step, and stuff. So it really messes with you mentally. And I think more than physically, it's really, really, it was trying on my psyche and stuff like that.
Well, it's definitely good to see both of you back, because you guys look ageless coming back in 2016 to the WWE when SmackDown and Raw separated different brands. Now, how this happened? How does this go on? Because it was so good to see. It was like the Spirit Squad showed up, then the Headbangers showed up. It's like, what's happening here? I love it so much.
It was great. So for the longest time, so my son is now 19. He's a sophomore in college. And he's seen us do, he's seen us do, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of indie shows. He finds it boring. One point we looked over and he was laying on a table sound asleep in the middle of our match, but okay. So one of my dreams always was on my bucket list was to actually have him see me in a WWE ring. So when they were in town, I'd reach out to Road Dogg and Triple H and go, hey, you guys are going to be in town. Can I somehow get on the show? It's a house show. And they're like, no, insurance reasons you can't. I'm like, I'll sign a waiver. You don't have to pay me. I just want one time for him to see us in that ring. And so Road Dogg knew this all along. So Road Dogg called. I got a text one time, and I had Brian's number still on my phone, and it said, hey, are you guys available to do SmackDown on Tuesday? This was on, a Thursday or Friday. And I'm like, yeah, okay, who is this, and where's the rib? And then Brian immediately called me, and he's like, no. He goes, no rib at all. He goes, we're doing this storyline. He goes, you guys would fit perfectly into the storyline. You know, we'd like to have you come out and blow. And I'm like, yeah, we're in. And then like 2 days later, he calls me back and he goes, I'm so sorry. He said for whether it was going to be in the Fox Casino or something up in like Massachusetts, up that way, whatever that casino is up there. And he said, you got to have full blood work done and blah, blah, blah. And he said, there's no time to get it all done. He said, I'm going to try and carry the storyline over to the following week, but I can't promise. And I went, no big deal. Appreciate the thought, but if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Appreciate the thought. So purposely watch SmackDown the next Tuesday to see, okay, what's the storyline? Where do we fit into this? I see nothing. And I'm like, all right, either A, they're able to carry the story over, or I'm just dumb and I'm missing where we would fit into any of the storyline. So Tuesday comes, Wednesday comes, Thursday comes, and I don't hear anything. And I'm like, I said to Glenn, I go, yeah, I guess, like we got scratched. Friday afternoon at like 4 o'clock, I get a call from Howard Finkel. Chaz Warrington, Howard Finkel here with the WWE. You are needed at SmackDown on Tuesday night. And then boom, that was it. Within an hour, we had plane tickets. We had everything we needed. And to go back was just, again, that's in my top 3 moments of being able to go back or in my wrestling career because, my son was able to watch me live on TV. And then my wife at the time, she actually set up her phone on the floor, videoing him watching me on TV. Awesome. So when I got to come home, I got to watch him watch me, and I got to see his reactions. And it was funny. Like I got some static from fans on Twitter afterwards because I did the dad. And they're like, you never did the dad before. Like you're just trying to be cool because the dad's in now. And so I used to do the monkey face when I used to come out. That was for my niece. That was her. When I came out and I did that, she knew that was for her. So I said to Tyler, my son, I said, I'm going back. Like, what would you want me to do? I said, I can do the monkey face. He's like, no, you do that for Amy. So we go through all those things. And all of a sudden he goes, I want you to dab. And I go, not doing it. I hate to dab. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. And he goes, that's why I want you to do it. So I said, fine. So I get in the ring and I get up on the corner and the camera was just, I didn't even ask the camera guys to catch it. Because usually we talk to the camera guys, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they just caught it. And his reaction of watching that, I got goosebumps, was like the greatest thing ever. Like he started laughing and clapping and cheering. And it was just, so to be able to go back was amazing. And then the way we were accepted back into the locker room, I mean, we hadn't been there in 15 years. And, we walk into catering and you kind of look around and go, okay, let me find someone I know and go and sit down and just get out of the way. And across the room on the other side was John Cena. And he saw us and stood up and it was instant eye contact. And he was like, Headbangers, like across catering. He's yelling our name. And because we worked with him when he was still wrestling as the Prototype in California. We went out and did some shows and we worked with him before, he was John Cena. He was like, come on. Like he comes over, he gives us big hugs. He's like, come on, let's catch up. So we ended up sitting down with him for a while and just shooting the shit and talking. But it was great to go back and just be like accepted right back into and as one of the boys when we hadn't been there so long.
My God, you brought tears to my eyes.
And then the match happened, and I'll let Glenn tell that part.
So for me, it was like a full circle, for everything that I went through with the knee and the weight gain, the weight loss, and when we were going away and we were wrestling in Smoky Mountain and USWA in Arkansas, I had 2 younger kids. I was married and I had 2 kids. So I was away I missed a lot of their growing up through the wrestling. So, and they didn't understand it. They didn't know. They were small. They were 2, 3 and 1 years old and stuff like that. So, for me, it was like a full circle, with the injury, the weight, and then having them see what pulled daddy away, for half of their life, and why it was so special and stuff like that. Because, for the longest time, they didn't think it was normal to them. Their dad being on TV, they just thought it was normal, to the point where my oldest took our action figures into school for show and tell. And she comes home, she's all upset. She's like, what's the matter? Paige, what's wrong? She's like, nobody else's daddy has an action figure. Like she, and that's when I was like, daddy has a different job. It's a little different than others and stuff like that. And, just like Chaz was saying, just the acceptance that, was given to us when we went back and stuff like that, and then to be called back, so many other times after that was just crazy. So, we were just happy to be it, to come back and have that opportunity and stuff like that for the WWE universe to be introduced to the Headbangers and stuff like that. And then the match didn't quite go, I guess, as we wanted it to.
Wait, hold on. The match went great.
Well, I'm talking about the other part, the grayed out part.
Yes, I know. So the match went great. The problem with the match ended up, and Heath and Rhino had no issue with this at all. But our thing always was when they brought an outside people in and they hurt one of the regular guys, we're like, that's fucked up. Like, you're coming in here and you're hurting like our guys. Like, someone's hurt now or whatever. So we give Heath the double flapjack, and he bites his tongue, so he's got all blood running out of his mouth. And then I run over and knock Rhino off the apron. Well, it just was perfect where the point of my elbow caught him right here, and he ended up with 8 stitches. Blood was all running down his face. So we go through it. We're both perfectly fine with it. Nobody said a word to us about it. They were like, shit happens, no big deal. But we're leaving, and we're driving back. We're like, well, if there was any chance of us coming back, that just got shit canned. We came in and everyone's bleeding all over the place. Like, we were those guys that came in and hurt the talent.
15 years we waited to come back, and we just let everybody bloody.
That'll teach them.
That's right.
And yeah, they called us back 2 weeks later, and then they called us back the third time right before Survivor Series. So it was pretty cool.
If there was a story, if there was a movie about your careers, that would be the perfect ending to it, because of your trials and tribulations through life and going through them and becoming who you are now, and then in 2016 getting brought back, being able to show your children what you've done and what you did for them. Yeah, you brought up, I have 3 small children. They don't understand when Daddy goes away for the weekend to go travel to cover wrestling. They don't understand, why is Daddy leaving us? But yet you both probably had the same situations of you're trying to be a great dad, but you're also trying to do a great job.
It was funny, too, because one of the times that we went back was in Trenton, New Jersey. And we're both from South Jersey, so Trenton was only, 40 minutes up the turnpike. So both of my daughters were able to go see it live.
Awesome.
So, and that was just something for me, just for them to see it and stuff like that it was awesome.
That's
amazing. I was fortunate. I was single with no responsibility when we were on the road, so it didn't matter. But the funny part for me is I was close with my niece. She's my goddaughter. I was close with her, but when I would come home, I'd like go to her basketball games, and she couldn't understand why she used to get mad because, people would see me, they'd come running over, they'd want to talk, they want to take pictures, they want autographs and stuff like that. And she literally would grab my hand. She's like, "This is my uncle, not yours. We're leaving. Like, let's go."
And you're like, all right, well, I got it. She's the boss.
And listen to the boss.
She's the boss. One final question before we wrap this up. Where is the strangest place you've ever wrestled?
What was that? Was that Clarksville, Tennessee?
I would say the weirdest place that I ever wrestled was down at Cowtown Rodeo in New Jersey. It was in the middle of a dirt rodeo stadium. That was my very, very, very first match.
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
Oh, my. What about, you got a strange story as well?
Oh, we wrestled down, I think it was Clarksville, Tennessee. So it was in the middle of the mountains. So you had to go up into Kentucky and come back down to get back into Tennessee to go. And as we're pulling in, there's a white building, and spray painted on the side of the building was "Long Live the KKK." We looked at each other and we're like,
they're going to love us.
We get over real big here. So we have a match with, it was supposed to be with Ricky and Robert, but for some reason, I think Ricky wasn't there. So it was Robert and Dirty White Boy. And it was a 2 out of 3 falls match. And we were just, They were a bunch of toothless dirtballs in the crowd, and us being heels and us being how we are, that's what we were doing. And a lady actually came across the rope. We had back then with Smoky Mountains, you had the pole with cemented into a coffee can with a string. That was the barrier.
That's the barrier.
That was the barrier. So the girl comes across the rope, and like I'm backing up now, and I'm like, okay, let's go. Waiting for some sort of security to grab this troll and get her out before something happens. Well, then she tried kicking me, and she kind of caught me right in the nuts. So I grabbed her, and I was holding her at ringside. And then from there, chaos broke out. This guy turned and went to hit me, and literally knocked the guy out with one shot.
No, so I'm in the ring, so he didn't see this. I'm in the ring, and I think it was me and Tracy. We look out, we see this, and the guy was behind Chaz coming at him with a chair like this. And me and Tracy, both at the same time, were like, look out! And, you know, his instinct was turn around. He saw it and just hit the guy right here. Up, finish.
The guy just dropped. So I'm sitting there, I'm like now everyone's trying to come at us. And they're like, Robert's like, get in the ring. So I get in the ring. Robert rolls me up, 1, 2, 3. I stand up. He rolls me up, 1, 2, 3. He goes, get the fuck out. So we run to the locker room. Now we're like, oh my God, we're going to get fired. I just hit a fan. I'm like, oh my God. Everyone in the locker room was like, now, meanwhile, Glenn's first wife was, 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
With Morgan, his second daughter. She was with us. Because it was one show. We drove from Jersey down to do the show, and we drove back. Everyone in the locker room was like, get your shit, don't get changed, get out. Like, just go. Do not stop for hours. Just drive. So that's what we did. We grabbed all our shit. We had face paint on. We were still in gimmick. And we drove like 4 hours. And thank God we left, because the locals barricaded the parking lot with their trucks and sat out there with their guns waiting for us to come out. And the boys were all stuck there. Everyone else in that locker room was stuck there for hours until they searched that building to make sure we weren't there.
Yep.
Yes. True story.
Brad Armstrong, Tracy Smothers, Dirty White Boy, they were all there.
Cornette wasn't on the show, but we get a phone call the next day. He's like, you boys okay? We're like, yeah. He's like, where are you? We're like, Jersey. We're at home. He goes, oh, so when they told you to leave, you really left. We're like, we were going home anyway, but yes.
Yes.
Wow.
And then so the closing funniest part of the story was the guy tried suing myself and Smoky Mountain. He said that I broke his nose, his cheekbone, and his eye socket, and his tear duct didn't work properly. He had to constantly, and he had partial blindness tie. He had to put drops in his eyes all the time. So it was actually the week of WrestleMania 13. We did WrestleMania, we did Raw, and then the next day we were supposed to fly out to go to court. The judge, the day we were supposed to fly out, threw the case out because the guy went and got a job driving a school bus. They're like, if you're blind, you can't pass a test to drive a school bus.
Yeah.
So they threw the case out.
Not the brightest people down there, but, you know.
Oh my.
That's the craziest story I have.
I'm going to say, I think you've won strangest place to ever wrestle. I have heard a few recently of people changing in U-Hauls in Canada in December with a little heater in front of them, wrestling in front of 5 people with their dogs with them. But I think you both just won the strangest place award. Yeah. So congratulations, you've done it. The fact that on the outside of the building it says that terrible thing, and the fact that it happened to you, but here you are to tell the tale you lived.
We knew just from the outset that it was going to be one hell of a night.
Yes.
Well, we saw that.
Yes, I can imagine being like, do we have our nun costumes? We should probably put those on instead. But outstanding. Well, I am so excited for what you're doing in the world today. NWA, October 28th, pay-per-view. You're going to see what we can do. Hopefully we can win this matchup, and then hopefully we can continue on with more Headbangers on NWA TV or more. Do you guys have anything you'd like to plug, anything you'd like to share with the world before we wrap this up?
No, just tune in and watch it. Buy the pay-per-view. I don't know what it is, but buy it. There's a lot of great, crazy matches that are going to go on. I know it's more of a hardcore theme. So it's going to be great. Just support the NWA, support the indies, indie wrestling, because, that's really where everyone comes from now. And there's so many options out there now It's going to be better. The talent's getting better. You know, the TV's getting better. So just support the indie guys and support the NWA. And hey, you never know what's going to happen. Never say never.
And make sure when you see Headbanger merch on WWE, you can go out and get it.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention that part.
Yeah, we signed.
We didn't mention our Legends contract we signed. Yeah. So when new merchandise comes out, make sure you buy it.
So you recently signed. Well, before we wrap that, then. So since you signed a WWE Legends contract, what does that actually give you, and what does that allow you to do? Because I know some contracts say like, oh, you have this, but you can't be on TV.
No, so I talked to them. So basically, they call it the nostalgia contract, but otherwise the inside is the Legends contract. It's basically merchandise. Action figures will be on the video games. Hopefully, T-shirts. Hopefully, when the merchandise starts coming out, and because it could be, so we signed it in March. So they said it could take 10 to 12 months with production and stuff. So I think once that starts, and maybe they'll probably bring us back on TV because there's appearances rolled into that whole contract we signed. So now we're doing other stuff, we can do whatever we want as long as there's no merchandise made of us and sold.
Oh.
So yeah, so we're free to do, like when the NWA thing came up and we were asked, I checked with the office first because I'm like, I didn't want to, you know, have a conflict of interest and, you know, get that contract killed off or be in trouble. And they said, no, you are free to do whatever you want as long as there's no merchandise made. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. I think everyone always wants to know what a Legends contract is, and now we figured it out what it is. We
are back home. We are back home.
Will we ever see the Headbangers in the Hall of Fame? That's my final question.
Wow, that would be a honor to, you know, to be there. I've learned in this business for 30 plus years to never say never. So yeah, no idea. It would be an honor and a privilege.
Yeah. I mean, my initial thought is no. People are like, you're gonna get to all of him. I'm like, never. And they're like, why? And I'm like, what have we done? Like, to me, we've been around 30 years. I think we've made a good impact in 30 years. We've done a lot, but at the same time, I go, we haven't done that much. There's other legendary tag teams that aren't in the Hall of Fame yet that I think probably should get in before us. But at the same time, I literally think, like, what did we really do? And then you start talking to people and they start like rattling off the different things we've done. We've been around so long, like, it's one of those things. And I go, yeah, maybe. Yeah. So the legit answer is, who knows? It
would be an honor.
If William Shatner can be in the WWE Hall of Fame, I think we can make room for the Headbangers. Just saying, okay? Just saying. He was on an episode of Raw and did like a little voiceover once. 2 times, okay? Former tag team champion.
But it's William Shatner.
He's not in the Hall of Fame. Like, if there's a Star Trek Hall of Fame, he should be the first one in, you know? But wrestling-wise, let's let the wrestlers in first,
Listen,
then we can bring in celebrities.
If they called us to go and be in it, it would be awesome. Is it going to happen?
Who knows?
Well, we'll if it happens, we'll in the future we'll wheel you out in a wheelchair in your skirts, and we'll get it going because you've earned it, you deserve it. But again, it's been an honor. Like I said earlier, this is like a unicorn interview. I never thought this would happen. Having both Headbangers here today on Tank Out, it's a privilege, an honor, and I am so excited to see you in NWA, and I cannot wait to see what happens next when that merch hits that WWE.com. You know, I'll be buying that Real Men Wear skirt, shirt, and people will say in this world, cool man, but 20 years ago, who knows what they would have thought. But all in all, I have to say thank you so much. My giant box is over there. I'll pull it out for you later. Wait, what did he say? Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you. Peace out.
Yeah.